Hello and welcome all. So this lecture is the part 9 of the beginners learning Blazor series, and we'll be taking templated components today. So what are templated components? Templated components are components that accept one or more UI templates as parameters. Now this is then used as part of the rendering logic. And this allows user to author higher level components that are highly reusable and more so than the regular components. So I'll be showing a demo of code, and that will make everything clear. And one of the examples that I'm going to cover in this tutorial is a list component that allows a user to specify a template for items in a UI, unordered list, for rendering. So let's switch over to Visual Studio now. A couple of other things before I switch over to Visual Studio really. That's about generic type. So what's a generic type component? Templated components are generically typed often, and I will demonstrate this in the code. And usage of @typeparam directive is made for defining a generic component. And when using generic typed components, the type parameter is inferred if possible at compile time. So we'll be having code like this. So here it is inferred. Items is customer and item template context is customer and items is customers. Now that will be soon clear when we now switch over to Visual Studio. Now to start with, I will create a customer model, a customer class, and that will be at the root level, at the project level. So right click and add class, and I will call this customer.cs or customer class. This will serve as my model. So this customer class is created for me. So all I will do is to add a public property of string type, the name, customer name you can say, because in list item or unordered list you can only at one time show one item. So I will just restrict it to one public property of type string name. Okay, and then all I need is to create a constructor, parametered constructor. So I write ctor, and then this this is parameterless constructor is created for me. So I need to enter two arguments to the constructor. One is integer type and ID, and then name, which is of string type. And then I really don't need that ID also, because I am restricting only to this property name. So name equals name, which is put as an argument to the constructor, right? This is customer class for me then. And then I will come back to the pages folder and right click, and I will add a component, a new item. So click on the web tab, razor component, and I will name this razor component list view template. So list view template. Now within this list view template.razor, I'll have to write a bit of code. So I will get rid of basically this part, header, and instead I will make a directive type param. Okay, so this declares a generic type parameter for the generated component class. So @type param, and below that type param directive, I'll create a unordered list UL and end UL tag. Between these two I will create a for each loop. So before I create that for each loop, I will fill the code block with parameters so that it doesn't end up in any squiggly lines. Okay, so I will give two parameters here one by one. So first parameter to this component, list view template component, is a public property. So prop tab, and this will be of type render fragment, which we have already studied in one of my earlier lectures. So please follow my lectures in this series. And it represents a segment of UI content implemented as a delegate that writes the content to a Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Components.Rendering.Render tree builder. It's a property type. Okay, so I highly recommend you go through my earlier tutorials on Blazor before coming to this. So here at type param, following this directive, type param directive, I give it a name. I give it the name T-item, and it will be clear why I choose this name. This is an item of type, any generic type, T-item, and then render fragment of this type, T-item, and I call this render, which returns, call this public property item template. Okay, and then I'll copy this part. This is just the parameter part, and then another public property. So prop tab, and this will be of I read only list. This is a read-only list of T-item again, and I name this items. All right, now that's all in the list view template, and now I'll be writing a Razor component which will be using this list view template. So I will name this list view template user. So right click on the pages folder again, add new item. So this Razor component will be known as list view template user. All right, now what will be the code? So I'll get rid of this header, and instead I will give a page directive here, just to browse it to a certain page to see the rendered tree. And I will shortcut, I will give it this name, LVTU, rather than writing the total big name of list view template user. I'll just write shortcut just to demo. Okay, so now before the code block starts, all I need to do is to create a div block here, and within the div and end div tag I will write some CSHTML. So here, because this is the parent of the component list view template, so I will use the list view template, and here the properties are items. I will make it customers. Now hang on, this will show squiggly lines and I will come back to it, sort it out. Items equals and let me first end tag it. Okay, and then T-item equals customer, that is the customer model. All right, so between this list view template and end list view template, that is the a list view template child component that I'm using over here, and let me just finish it off and I'll take care of the squiggly lines. Item template context equals customer. Now this customer is different from this customer. This is the customer class and this is the context. Just one context, and item template and end item template. So just bear with me for a minute and I will get there, get rid of all these squiggly lines soon. And within this item template, I'll be writing a list item. So that's funny. List item, and within end list item and end list item, I'll write at customer not this customer, but this is small c, lowercase c, dot name. Now, because I have not written the code so far, so that will actually get rid of all these compile time errors, red squiggly lines. So here I'll have to write a, let me bring it, indent it a little bit. So there is a parameter there. Parameter. Now this is a customer's public property read-only type. It returns a read-only list of customers. So this will be again prop tab. So public, instead of integer, it will return I read-only list, and I want it to be returning of a customer type. So this is customer and I call this customers. All right, and that has taken care of this top squiggly line. Equals, get set equals I'll have to initialize this now, the list of customer with a few seed value, seed data basically. So new customer name is say John, then comma, another one, new customer, let's say Sandy, and new customer Andrew. So put a semicolon over here, then comma, and new customer Emily. So that's it. Now here at customer dot name. So this is giving some squiggly lines still. So let's see. Items list view template, items customer, t item equals customer, and item template context equals this, and end item template. I think it should be all right now. Let's build this. So now it has built successfully, and let's run this application. Control F5. So this part also I have written down, and now it is building. So I have filled the unordered list at for each var item in items at item template of item, and then I have already run this application. I have reloaded the page, and now the list item is coming nicely: John, Sandy, Andrew, and Emily. So what we have learned today is we have learned about generic typed components, and we have also seen templated components. Now here I have specified, if you see the code again, so in the code here, the user part, I have explicitly typed T item of customer. So that's what I am telling. Normally, even if you get rid of this part, it should still infer, it should still run, it should still run, it should still build. Control Shift B, it should still build, and it should still run, give me the same result. It has given me the same result by type inferring. Okay, but if the type is not inferred somehow, then you give it the explicit type information by this writing T item, which was coming from type param. Okay, so we have successfully demonstrated templated components today with generic arguments, generic typed components. So this was the code for the customer class. So we have kept just one property to populate the list item, list view template, and then the list view template dot result list view template component, which was a child component. It uses at type param T item, and then this at for each loop. It is populating the list, unordered list, and these are the render fragment type returning. It's a item template and I read only list of items. And finally, we have the list view template user, which was actually using this list view template and calling its parameters items, and items is populated from this I read only list of customers, and T item is the type of the item is customer, and then context is customer. Okay, so if I make the customer as the context, then add customer dot name. Now this is explicit declaration of the inference of the type, and if you get rid of the T item and it still infers, that is implicit, which is what it should infer most of the time. So that's it. Thank you.